Maybe just as we do, something to help the three of us on here for this particular session. This is going to be a very data-focused session as a part of our topic of conversation, really. Who in the room has data that's probably their biggest priority right now? Yeah, I think everybody would put your mouths over there. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to really dive into this topic in a bit more. Some really practical examples of the work that William's done at Freddie Mac and the partnership with TealBook. So let's get started with the rest of the audience. Hopefully we'll filter in over the next couple of minutes. But just a quick introduction to it. Welcome. Thanks so much for being here for the event and for this conversation today as well. William, just a quick overview from you, if you wouldn't mind, of the role, organisation, and just to kick things off and introduce yourself to the audience today.
Well, thank you. So William Bagley, I lead the supply chain procurement organization for Freddie Mac. Been doing that for almost 6 years. And let me just take 30 seconds. I don't know if people recognize who Freddie Mac is and what we do, but basically we're a secondary mortgage company. So basically, either Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae probably has one of your mortgages. So basically, that's what we do. We spend a lot of time, a lot of data. We probably have a lot of information on each and every one of you when you've done underwriting with us as well. So, glad to be here.
Thank you. And Stephany, so to you, just a quick overview about an awful lot of what you're doing, hence the partnership here and the conversation we have today with TealBook and Freddie Mac is about co-innovation with senior leaders like William at CPO level. So just a bit of an overview on that, and vision, and your role.
So I'm Stephany Lapierre, I'm the founder and CEO of TealBook. And prior to TealBook, I built a consulting business, building procurement function. And what I saw in my own practice is that there's tools, definitely lots of processes, but data was a big block. It was really hard to get good quality data. And the more systems you implement, the more disparity, the more size, the more requirements, the more need for data. And I just saw an opportunity we could actually solve this data problem, agnostic of the systems and tools that procurement is using. We could actually drive a lot of value. There's a lot of untapped value within the supply base that, elevated with data can be quite significant. And so I tried to kill the idea for 9 years, and 8 years ago, I decided to turn my life upside down to build this company. We've raised $72 million so far. We've grown quite a bit. A lot had to do with COVID and some of the use cases that we were serving. And we focused on use cases that we could prove that a data-first approach versus a software-based approach could actually deliver more automation and better outcomes. And one of those use cases we'll talk a bit about was supplier diversity. And so that gave us a use case that our customers could show. It was also a driving factor to understand small, diverse businesses and privately owned businesses and get better at this. And so we had the pleasure of working with we have hundreds of customers across 16 sectors. That's still a use case that's being driven, and it gave us permission to start exploring how do we expand across more attributes and more use case? How do we elevate our technology now that 7 years later, we have the capital, lots and lots of learning, customers that want to solve this big supplier data problem. And so we asked a number of strategic customers if they wanted to partner. 5 of them, NASDAQ, Albemarle, Standard & Poor's, I think Goldman Sachs, and we just actually got Kraft Heinz as part of the co-innovation cohort. And for the last 18 to 24 months, we've been building the requirements to bring this new platform to life. And so we just released the API in February. We're still in very much co-building mode, but we're really fortunate to have customers who understand the problem and want to partner with us to really focus on solving this problem.
Perfect, thank you. We've gone to the partnership between yourselves and both organisations as we dive into it as well. But we're really just to kick off with it's a bit more with you. Really interesting conversation we've had prior to this. You're a very data-driven leader. You've been in organisations for a lot of different industries, from medtech to insurance and FS, an engineering background, which I always find interesting as well. It helps in the data-driven perhaps, but what role for you does data play when the criticality of it when it comes to achieving your goals and achieving the strategic desires that you've got for the organization?
Good question. So one of the things that I've learned over the various industries I had an opportunity to play in, I would always hear either my team or one of my stakeholders talk about, we want good data. And to me, it sounds like a very simple statement, but what is good data? And when I actually joined Freddie Mac, I went through the normal transformation items and looked at what I wanted to do with the organization. And I consider, having a category management group, having buying and payables, that's kind of table stakes, right? In terms of what you need to do around managing supplier performance. But when I got to the organization, I didn't really know what data I had. Because to me, the organization was I'll say it's in its early stages of being a procurement organization. And I didn't even have categories. What we used to buy, it was all about the accounting. So people bought based on the GL, and I couldn't figure out how much you buy on capitalization when you're going to buy a server. What is that? So we didn't have good data to be able to make good decisions. And what I was being asked to do was to invest in how we look at risks, how we manage relationships, and then basically, as all of us that are in the procurement, how do I save the money through the organization? And we couldn't do that without data. So when I built my strategy around what we wanted to do transformationally, I took a data-first approach. Because the other piece of that was, when I got there, they had just released a version of our current system that would replace it hopefully in 3 weeks, and no one was going to let me buy another system. So basically, I had to look at what would I do in terms of getting the data that I needed to influence decision making, to give me the insights that I needed in order to drive the outcomes that the organization was looking for me to do. So it's the backbone of my strategy, and it's what I spend the most energy on. I actually have reallocated resources in that area, and so it's a very important element to the strategy that we have.
And given it's so foundational, why is it so hard for all organizations to start? Why should we be doing this right now? Why is it so hard? You mentioned a few organizations have found very structured. What's the first thing you advise to do when you think about when you go into that?
Well, hopefully this resonates with you as well. So in order to get data about your supplier, you have to ask them, right? And you can start with a portal. Who uses a portal to think they're getting data from their suppliers? Do you get it beyond the initialization of that relationship? So part of the challenge is you get stagnant data. Things change within various different companies. Things change all the time. Companies are acquired by one another. They actually modify their strategies. So what you need is real-time data that's actually updated. So anybody can get it at a point in time. And suppliers are very motivated, particularly if you can get more purchase orders, to actually give you what you need. But they're not necessarily in a good position to keep that updated. So to me, it's the governance around making sure that you get the key updates that you need and get it in such a fashion that it supports your decision making.
And Stephany, a little bit for you there. I think the TealBook is all about driving data quality. And you mentioned this before, but some issues around supply diversity as well, kind of the ways in which you try to work with organizations to help deliver against this transformational agenda. For you, how do you think your global customer base, how do you obviously advise on success and how that organization should go about structuring and approaching the data platforms that you?
Well, if you have not been into the data world, it's easy to simplify. And we've talked about when you hear CEOs say it all starts with good data. And you go, oh, how are you getting good data? They go, oh, that's the hard part. So it all starts with good data, and you can't do it, or it's very difficult. And everything else you're building is basically not built on the foundation that will make the organization more intelligent progressively. I do think having, having a mindset around data, if you have worked with data, you know how complex it is. And so, having the mindset within the organization that data is a priority. We're seeing a lot of functions being created now around center of excellence, data reporting teams, Some of our customers are building data lakes, they're getting more mature. And it's a really exciting space, and I think the majority of procurement teams are not there yet. So they're still at the very beginning of understanding how do I know I have bad data, I know where I can use good data across the entire life cycle, what it could enable me to do, where do I start? And so, our focus has been building a technology that enables any procurement teams across, any maturity level, sectors, technology stack to access good data quality and scale. Our customers have asked us, we want better quality data that's updated. We wanted more data, we have more attributes, more requirements that we need to collect. So anything that we can access faster without depending on our suppliers would be a huge win. We want faster. Think about just getting a vendor master today. Even asking a customer for vendor master can take like 4 to 6 weeks. And the template that we needed. So when you need to answer questions or build category strategy or do your analytics, or you need to implement a new tool, or every time you need your vendor master to be actionable, it takes a long time. So our customers have asked us, how can we do this faster? In the new version of TealBook, we can process a vendor master within a few minutes. Even if you have 70,000 suppliers, we can process it, normalize it, match it, enrich it. And then the game and forever, the game will be how much data can we add to a universal supplier profile to give more data to our customers in a way that's more transparent. And our customers have asked us to make it easier to send in quality, consistent data across their system and tool, no matter what that is. It's a BI tool, a data lake, an ERP, a sourcing tool, all the tools that you have here that would depend on quality data to fully optimize and materialize the investment we made in technology is essential. So that's the vision. I think where to start is, obviously very biased. Send us your vendor master, we can at least identify where you have gaps and start with a few use cases. And that's how we started. We started with supplier diversity, had some amazing wins. And so that gave us permission to expand.
One of the things I'll add is that we're one of those customers that started with the data mart. We actually pulled data from multiple disparate systems. And the key common identifier was supplier. So we actually use that as our key identifier. We pull data from our risk system, we pull data from our compliance. Anything that actually does anything related to an action to supplier, we pull it into our data. And then the team that I put in place to do dashboards and analytics, they feed that back to us in a usable fashion. And I don't know how you guys look at data within your organizations, but in Freddie Mac, we take a data producers. So I'm considered a data producer of data around suppliers within our organization. And then we have consumers of that data. And part of my accountability and responsibility as a data producer is to make sure that data is accurate, make sure that data actually meets the needs of the consumer. And if you look at kind of my organization, I have consumers that are in my organization, and then I have consumers outside of the business as well. So part of the reason why we focus a lot on data, because if you look at our organization, we do lots of models around who we should give a mortgage to, understand the risk in the organization. So not just procurement, but we have aspects of supplier, not all of the attributes of the supplier, but we have risk organizations, we have businesses that are using parts of the data, and my accountability and my commitment to the organization that it would be the most accurate, the most holy data that we can actually provide as a producer of that data.
If I can add on this, what we're seeing is that there's an incredible opportunity for procurement right now to actually take ownership. How can we make our vendor master more actionable and deliver data that's not just for procurement, supply chain, finance, compliance, third-party risk. We have really strong use cases in financial services to integrate the same supplier data into Salesforce because it can help create pipeline. It can help also with balance of trade, negotiation. And so if procurement can actually harness it, and it's hard, right? But if you have the tools and you have the mindset to be able to drive that kind of value, the impact of procurement that you can have across all the functions of the whole life cycle, the buy side, which is anything that touches a third-party provider, can actually be led by procurement. And if it's not, what we're seeing is that finance is moving into building spend data lakes. and they're starting to want to take ownership of the vendor master. And so, ideally, it's done in collaboration. That's the perfect world, and the CIO is awesome and collaborative. But if you can actually do this without needing so much IT, which is part of, how you've been able to manage having appropriate resources and having the buy-in from finance to collaborate on this initiative, it can be one of the most value-add functions. Just think about how much you can leverage from improving. The only way you can improve your margin is by generating revenue. They have data. And the only way that you can also improve margin is by reducing costs and optimizing the investment you make in your supplier base. If you don't have the data to drive those types of decisions and drive value for the organization, you're missing a huge opportunity. It's a massive untapped asset.
Fantastic, thank you. William, if you might just unpack a little bit more for us about some of the examples within Freddie Mac around where you derive ROI from having that high quality data. I love the approach you just do out you provided there for us around those the providers, etc. But maybe some tangible examples can you share with the audience where you've seen success and to recognise internally by having such an approach with your team and for stakeholders and wider?
Absolutely. So we're actually in a regulated industry. So some of our objectives are given to us. We don't necessarily come up with them on our own. And supplier diversity is one of those objectives that we're given, and the goals get alongside, not always by us, but by our regulator. And so on the supplier diversity side, that was actually the first connection that we had with TealBook, is I needed to report data as it related to supplier diversity. And part of that is when you send data to your regulator. I'm actually regulated by the FHFA, and they ask a lot of questions if data actually changes when you don't necessarily want it to change. So you really spend a lot of time enriching the data, making sure the data is accurate. So you spend a lot of resources on that. And when we started working with TealBook, some of that enriching, some of that validation, making sure that the certifications were up to date and accurate, that these were truly diverse suppliers, we didn't have to do that anymore. So that was something that we used. So that was our first use case with TealBook. And then regulator indicated that we needed to create a tier 2 program. Not that we were meeting our numbers on our tier 1 spend, but we needed to actually continue down the value chain and actually have tier 2 spend. So I called up Stephany and I said, well, can you do this for us? And they actually responded very favorably. And it met my expectations, and I think our regulators' expectations beyond what we thought. 85% of our spend actually have our suppliers reporting tier 2 spend to us. In some cases, it's not a lot, but basically they've actually report that through TealBook. They manage that whole effort for us, and they manage that data, ensure that it's accurate. It gets segmented into the various different classifications of diverse suppliers. So a lot of that we've been able to have TealBook do on our behalf and manage that data around that. So that was our use case that we started with. And then actually, I was fortunate enough that I stood on one of the CPOs on Stephany's advisory board. She gave me the opportunity to give her lots of suggestions on how to do a platform that they actually had developed and that they already released. So I was one of the 5 CPOs that was part of their co-development program. So we provided feedback, and one of the things that I think they really delivered on is that how do you know that the data that you're getting from a third party and you can trust it? You know, because to me, you get data that you then have it come into your organization, then you quarantine it, you check it, and then you double check it. We don't just put anything in our supplier basket. But the concept that actually we kind of shared and Stephany's team developed was kind of trusted scores. And to me, there's certain data that's actually triangulated, it comes from multiple sources, it has a high trusted score. And then you have some that basically they're not as sure about, and the trust score is low. We see that trusted score. So those that are high, we may actually not spend as much time, we may have to go directly into our supply master. But those that have low trusted scores, now that's where we begin to focus our time to make sure that we actually do checks or whatever. And that actually creates efficiency for us within our organization. And it allows me to continue to reallocate resources. Because at the end of the day, you know, I know Stephany has a data company, but people just want the data. They don't want to think about how we get good data. They don't want to enrich it. They don't want to do those things. And what I need to be able to do is to take that data, use it to make decisions, to analyze that data, and now be in position, we're not totally there yet, is to be able to reallocate resources in my data analytics team from collecting data to begin to actually build on the analytics and the proactive analytics that I'm looking for to support my relationship management activities, category management, and the like. Well, this is how I do.
Well, the trust score became about transparency, right? So that's an amazing use case where there's some specific systems and tools you just would want to accept high trust data. In some cases, you would want to still validate it. But there's some use case like sourcing. Maybe you want 75 attributes. Maybe it's okay if it's low to medium score because it's directionally correct and you want to enable your sourcing managers or your stakeholders to have access to data. If it comes with a trust score, the trust score is low, doesn't mean it's wrong. If it's low and if the data is wrong, whoever's consuming it, it's more forgiving, right? Than saying this is all high trust data and it's wrong. Most days today, if you buy data from DMP or S&P, whoever, it's all the same, and there's no way to be able to know and segment, you know, based on the attributes, based on the supply I'm spending money with, where do I actually need to spend time validating records. And so if we can reduce the amount of time to validate data post, and by getting the feedback loop, and that's the next build on our new platform, is how do we enable data correction and validation at scale so that all of our customers using it can contribute. It doesn't mean one customer will accept a validated record from another company, but it can include the signal and include the trust score in a way that is progressively getting better. So that's some of the mechanics of the platform. I'd say the other, from a trust perspective, I think the segmentation of it. The other thing is the stakeholders. What we've heard from the procurement team is exactly that forgiveness of giving data through the systems or tool and interface, and then be able to give more transparency in how people use it.
I think we spoke previously about let's combine vision here as well, and the importance of it from a partnership's perspective, and also from a design perspective with all stakeholders. Everything about the way we operate is so, or can be so brilliantly enhanced and accelerated by technology, but legally, from your perspective, what the criticality when it comes to data, improving the ROI investments that you're bringing into the organisation that you're implementing, how critical is it for you to ensure that that's so foundational, so critical in place that you can improve on the ROI to continue to invest in that way of operating?
It's a good question. The way I lead or manage my organization, it's almost like the trusted data school, right? So when things are working, I pay less attention to those things because I have more things to pay attention to than I want to, probably similar to a lot of you. So from an ROI, just from my perspective, I actually can focus on fewer things when I actually have the data that I'm producing is actually accurate, I trust it. Again, it's not only the data that I'm ingesting that is actually common that all of us would use, but even the data that I'm producing within my organization, that is customer generated from our processes. We have a pretty good governance structure. So I actually get reports every day of missing fields, something very simple. That when you're executing the sourcing process, some people forget to do certain things, and then basically they don't recognize that they move to other downstream or upstream processes. So actually I get a report from my analytics team that says, okay, by name of individual, that they forgot these fields, and we very politely ask them to actually correct them. But so I have a governance structure on top of it. So getting the data that's kind of public domain from TealBook very much supports me, but I apply the same governance to the data that I'm creating from my processes as well. and data that I receive from other people within the organization. So we get a little formal within Freddie Mac. So if I produce data or someone produces data and I need to use it, we have data sharing agreements between one another. And what that does is that what you say I'm getting, I'm actually getting. How you say you're going to use it, you're actually going to use it that way. And to me, that's just a local governance that we put on to make sure that when we use data for decision making or something goes to the board, that basically we can all stand by and say that it was used the way that it was supposed to. Hasn't always been the case. There's been a couple of diversity reports that went to the board, say, a few years ago, where one of the organizations was using the wrong data field, and it created some energy, I'll just say, around inconsistency. And so you never want to be in a board situation where there's inconsistency and it points back to you. So we really look and start formalizing a lot of things. So from an ROI perspective, it's, a lot of times it's not the dollars, it's actually the reputation. So we actually have a pretty good credible reputation within the organization. But in addition to that, maybe it's different for you, but my budget doesn't grow every year. They keep wanting me to give money back. So basically, I have to figure out how I use the same budget and reallocate resources. And the more I can have other things done on behalf of me, I can reallocate those resources to more strategic things. So from an ROI perspective, you necessarily can't say I save 50%, but what you can say is that I've actually provided more value to the organization. I build a better reputation and credibility across the organization in terms of what they receive from our supply chain.
Yeah, sure. Any questions to do as well? Please do think of those in a second, and those after the Stephany answer.
Just maybe a more sort of hard ROI. So we had a client sharing, so what they said is that we want more data from the TealBook, right? So there's a number of customers who want the higher quality, others we want more data, and that's going to be a forever thing. And then when I ask, so the quality data that you have, what does it take for you to accomplish this today, just to even get your spend? And when I say start breaking down the process, which is a recurring process that happens every 3 weeks, and in order to get the trust in the data, they need to have this sort of data operations team reviewing, validating records against data sources. And when we broke it down, he spends $1.5 million a year just in that process alone. Right, and so, and then in having visibility to the data, they're able to see with a supplier that they had 25 different contracts across the business or different lines of businesses, and they're able to consolidate. In that one consolidation, they're able to save over $1 million. So we're talking about two really kind of tangible things. If you accumulate it all, and another way that some of our customers are looking at the investment is one of our clients bought XLP from Ariba. It's been sitting on the sideline for almost a year. They spent $500,000 on it, but they need data to be able to implement it in a way that can drive the most compliance to the system. And so be able to accelerate that time to value, to pre-fill it with the right attributes so that they can launch it and provide a better experience on who's using it with better quality information can optimize that investment. And so if you're invested in your source to pay ecosystem X amount of dollars to materialize X amount of dollars in savings, if you're not materializing that because it's a data quality issue, which is often the case, then you're actually not delivering the value that you're supposed to be delivering. So even an incremental 10, 15, or 20% on that can be a significant. I don't know if you agree with me on all of this.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
I just try not to give too many hard numbers because my CFO doesn't take the money away. So I try to use more qualitative return on investment items.
We're almost in time, unfortunately. Any questions from the audience before we wrap up the session today? We will going to wrap up. Maybe just one last one from me. We've done staggeringly well to get through about 29 minutes of the session. I'll mention AI. I think it's probably maybe a record for the procurement conferences at the moment. But maybe it's definitely to you on this one. AI, kind of what roles are you looking to play and how you can kind of roadmaps on you. I know TealBook is a technology that you've embraced as part of the platform, but how does it be?
Yeah, I mean, 8 years ago, our thesis is that there's a lot of data out there. So to ask the suppliers to put their name, their website, their email addresses, their location, what they do, from their goods and services are things like there's going to be more and more data available. If we can actually grab it and make sense of it, we may not need suppliers to update all this information. So that was pretty novel. Not so novel anymore, but the exciting part is how mainstream AI is becoming. 4 years ago, we're doing webinar, what is ML, what is AI, as now, it's actually, it's accelerated at a rapid pace. So we use AI to solve the data quality problem because it's incredibly manual, it's incredibly tactical, and so we can do this at a speed and scale that was not possible before. And all the tools that leverage AI need data. And so it's all good to say, oh, we're going to use ChatGPT for this, and we're going to build the data infrastructure to enable AI. But you need to have a data foundation and quality data. It doesn't mean you can't add to it, but the foundation is really important because how you're generating insight, you need to be able to trust it. You need to have confidence in where the information came from to generate, insight that you can trust or your team can trust. And so when you're looking at investing in AI, and data is a core component of that, is how you're going to solve the data problem. So I think it's sort of twofold, and it's, I think it's incredibly exciting. I mean, it's a dream come true from 4 years ago to where we are today, for sure.
We're at time, unfortunately. But really great conversation. Thank you both so much for sharing the work you're doing in partnership as well. Please do come visit the team at the TealBook as well for any further questions across the next couple of days. But big round of applause for each of us. Thank you. Just now for this couple of moments, we'll get the next panel set up. We'll start here in a couple of minutes' time.